All right, let's give the other stream a chance to get caught up here. We got about 3 minutes until the close. So let me go ahead and get us with today's plays and then give the market a chance here just to settle down a little bit. We'll take a look at where it's closing. All right. And we should be good to go. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for January 5th, 2022. Fed minutes came out, and Q's and SPY did not like the potential for maybe more aggressive tightening of the balance sheet for the Fed. So you can see we're getting a reaction here today. We talked about yesterday, we came into today bullish, but if we broke this base on the IWM, if we broke the base on the SPY, next entry, bearish. So I didn't see this coming for today. We talked about how, the daily and the hourly, even on the SPY and the IWM, just didn't really give me any permission to be bearish. So perhaps as well, maybe the language was surprising for market participants as well, because this is a pretty significant sell-off, right? It's a pretty decent size there. So, and maybe enough people are a little bit surprised or caught off guard or whatever. But, that's why we talk about, well, what if this happens, then we'll be bearish, or, as we move forward, what will have to happen in order for it to be back to bullish, right? We do that kind of preparation because, we're letting the market and price action let us know and help us establish the bias, right? So, all right, so we got about a minute. So I don't think the market should change all that much. Maybe a little bit of a bounce into the close, but I'm not really expecting anything. And even if we did, it's not going to change anything, because going into tomorrow, what we need to see is basically a resting bar. Okay, so that could be a little bit of a move up. That would be an inside bar. We could try to move lower, produce a bottoming tail, and go sideways. Basically, we've had now a wide range bar on the daily, on the Qs and the SPY. So next bar we expect to be a narrow range bar after a move like this. Okay, so then we get that. We'll see, how does that form? Is it a slight move up? Is it an hourly sell setup? Is it going to be a hourly base breakdown, maybe tomorrow afternoon or the day after? Okay, so right now, not the time to be starting a new bearish bias, but to start watching for bearish entries, okay, as the market starts to turn bearish. Now we've had a drop into support. That's the closing bell, okay? So this isn't where you want to start to get in, shorting something after a drop like that, right? Where does your stop go? What's your reward to risk given what the target is, right? That stuff doesn't make sense at this point, okay? All right, let's go over the plays from today. Going to start with the first play, naturally. UEC. UEC was my first play. Mentioned it in the room as a 2-minute 1-2-3. And as a 2-minute 1-2-3, I don't have any problems with it. I like it a lot. It, I think, was a fine play from a chart standpoint. Now, you might have heard me say before, I don't like playing plays where the whole sector is gapping. So sometimes you'll get that with like energy, gold, whole sectors gapping, because they often just in the trend without much indication, and they just kind of top out or bottom kind of out of nowhere. And once I realized that someone in the room mentioned that these were all UEC, that they were all uranium, that then I kind of knew that, okay, the play's maybe not as good as I thought, because really from a chart standpoint, I like them all a lot. I mean, that's a nice daily that's starting to curl up. Weekly is a buy setup. And then the patterns were fine. I mean, this even as a breakout here is fine. That is also a little bit much as far as breaking above the previous bar, but that's, it is very close to a 1, 2, 3. And there's a bunch of others, and they all look the same, just all uranium related. So, I try to avoid that. Sometimes, you don't do it quite perfectly. It's like how, I've played something, I think, a month or so ago that was XDiv, and I played it, thought it was, an actual pro gap. And because the dividend had already been taken out of price to be given to stockholders, it's not really a true gap. It's not down as much as I think it is. And then, where it looks like a break of support on the chart isn't actually. So, these things can be a little bit tricky sometimes. It's not easy. Even when you get the charts down, there's little nuances like that can kind of make changes to things and also be significant impacts on the odds of a play working or not. Okay, so anyway, it's not a big deal. Sometimes, just it didn't work. I mean, we have played plays where the whole sector is moving, and I played something, I think, I had one like in the cannabis sector, and it still worked fine because all the cannabis stocks continued to move up that day. That'll happen, but generally I try to avoid those situations because I just feel like the continuation, the management, everything's just a little bit harder because the whole sector just does the whole thing at the same time. And it's less about the individual thing that you're playing. So once one uranium stock topped out, kind of they all were going to top out. Okay, so that was the UEC. That was the first play. The next play was the GOCO. So the GOCO played it. I got triggered in right here. Okay, and I was actually on the mic, coming on the mic right as this thing was starting to misbehave. So I played that, really liked as the 5 minute caught up after a breakout failure. I thought breakout failure was really nice. Right there, there's your attempt to break out and then got rejected and then base and then broke down. So that's where I got in, and then it immediately started to misbehave, almost immediately. Okay, my stop was at 352. Okay, and this went up again to 351 just like it had before. Okay, and then I was saying, oh, this is probably going to stop. Which is fine. If it stops, the stop doesn't work. I like the play, whatever. Well, the good thing is it did not stop, and I did not overreact to its, shenanigans. I already saw it tried to shake out before. I guess this was just another attempt at a shakeout, right? And then ended up being pretty nice. Now, if I had gotten shaken out, you definitely could have re-entered. This was a really nice entry here off of the 15 base breakdown there. So that was fine to do as well. Okay, here's the GOCO on the daily. All right, so something you may notice here, and I highlighted it because I was going over this play in the room, is that it definitely had some support in the way. It hadn't cleared yet when we played it. And SE had the same issue, but I didn't think the SE support was quite as bad. Notice the amount of overlap here versus how much time and touches of overlap there are on the GOCO. Okay, so at first I thought, that it's a little bit too much. There's, all these touches, and then it spent maybe a month or so establishing that support. I didn't know if it was going to get through. The thing that kind of was the tiebreaker or pushed me over the edge on playing it was the weekly. The weekly was just very, very weak, all out downtrend, very, very bearish. So I thought, okay, you know what? This isn't the kind of stock that holds support, right? Otherwise, the weekly wouldn't look like this. So, it was one of, again, kind of like the SE where it wasn't a no-brainer, I would say. It was kind of the best of what we had. And while I'm trying not to settle for that too often, it's either that or really there wasn't really that much else to do today, I thought. Okay. So glad it worked. Glad the management was good. This is the second time this week where the play went almost stopped out. Basically went to the penny, right, but didn't break. Remember, this was the GNPX from Monday. Low of that bar was 158. It came and tested it again. I was already in it. Looked like it was going to stop, right, and then continued on its way, right? So you can imagine how frustrated I would be if I had, given up on the play, or even though I'm telling myself I'm sure it's going to stop, right? If I had kind of acted on it or overreacted to the sell-off, then right, it would be pretty frustrating. So, I'm pretty happy with how I traded today, even though I made this mistake on the UEC, um, and but the GoCo I think was a good test. It was a good test of kind of consistency. Put me in a tough position. It's always tougher, especially when you're doing it live and you're making these decisions while on the mic. But I think at this point, those of you who are in the room have probably heard me say, okay, well, I'm just going to stick with the play and nothing I can really do here. Enough times where, that I'm really trying to be consistent with the management. Okay. So, yeah, just a couple of plays today. Not that much. Market ended up moving a lot, but it really all came in the afternoon, as you can see here. Once the last 2 hours, the last 2 hours is really where all the volatility came from after the Fed minutes. Okay, so there really, especially in the morning, wasn't that much to do. And then, if you're trying to play something, it's going to feel like it's a little bit gone by the time the market's like already, this move is underway. So, it wasn't an easy day, I think, even though you may look at this bar and think, well, you could have just shorted anything and it would have worked. Not necessarily, especially in the morning. Okay. All right. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice start to the year. We'll be back at it tomorrow, and I'll talk to you then. Have a good evening.